Hey, what's going on, everybody? Not your average Josh back here for another video, and this time I'm doing something I'm trying to make more of an effort to do videos like this, and it is a TV review for the show that just wrapped up its first season, and that is Dune Prophecy, the new series on Max, coming off of course, Dune Part 2 dropping earlier this year. But before I get into anything, I want to say, as I say at the beginning of every video, I do appreciate anyone who's watching this. Still a smaller channel here. I'm just doing this because it's my hobby and my passion. If you want to support this channel at all, you can hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like button and leave a comment as well. And also you can follow me on any of my social medias. They should be somewhere on this screen right now. But let's go ahead and get into this. And for me, my backstory with this whole Dune world, I've never read the books. I tried to watch the David Lynch movie that came out in the 80s, and I just couldn't get into it. I tried to watch it one time, and me, even as a stoner that I am, it was a little too weird for me. Honestly, I think the mindset I was in at the time, I just couldn't get into it. I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. It was just so weird and out there. I think I just need to sit down and have just a more of an open mindset or something with it, but I just couldn't get into it. And so when Denis Villeneuve was going to make these movies, I was pretty interested, but not really excited at all. But going to see the first Dune movie that came out in 2021, I really enjoyed that movie, and I've only increasingly enjoyed it as I've watched it every time since then. And when it comes to Dune Part 2 that came out this year, honestly, it's still pretty recent. It just came out this year, but I think that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, I enjoyed every moment of that movie. The way Denis in the first movie and then carrying it over to the second one created this world, just the entire scope of everything, the cinematography, everything on the production design level, the acting. I was so just into the story, and yeah, I didn't do a review on that movie because I wasn't doing this channel at the time, but I really thoroughly enjoyed that movie, and it is definitely one of my favorite movies of the year, right there at the top. And I will definitely talk about that more when I come out with my top movies of the year list, some of my favorite ones that I have seen. But that's kind of my background on this. It was going to be interesting going into this series, though, because Denis Villeneuve, not really involved, I don't even think at all, maybe a producer on it. I honestly don't even remember seeing that at all. So this kind of felt very separate. So I was interested in this, but I wasn't over the moon excited about it. It is a Max series and HBO series, I think, even original. And so with HBO, their track record, I mean, they're one of the best just in terms of having so many just iconic shows really at this point, whether you're talking about The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, The Wire, anything you want to go at, they just are constantly putting out really great quality content. So I had a lot of hope and definitely interest in what this could be, but I just didn't know where it was going to go. And the fact that it was 6 episodes only too, that could always be a little iffy, even with it being an HBO show. I do like there to at least be 8 episodes on a season to really flesh everything out. But with all that pre-thoughts going into this show aside, I really did enjoy this season. I thought everything they brought to it, it wasn't quite Denis Villeneuve's universe, of course, but I thought they did a really good job still with the production design. They really did put some money behind this show. You can see like the way the set design is, the locations they do shoot at. It really did feel like it was still in this Dune world. I didn't feel like it was separate, like it was not the same. I thought they did a good enough job of really bringing you back into this world and being able to explore, of course, the Sisterhood more in this show as they get into. And if you are unfamiliar, if you have not seen this show or you just haven't got into it much, it is basically 10,000 years before the events of the 2 Denis films, and you have 2 Harkonnen sisters who combat forces that threaten the future of humankind and establish the fabled sect that will become known as the Bene Gesserit. And that was one thing that was very interesting in this show. They don't really ever mention the Bene Gesserit by name. They're not really being referred to that name yet, so I thought it was pretty interesting on that level. And as I mentioned, this show, for the most part, was really good throughout. There were certain moments through episode 3 and 4 where it started to slow down a little bit in certain parts where you're really following throughout the majority of this season the Sisterhood on this planet or place called Wallach 9, and then also going back to this main planet where the Emperor is on and a bunch of the stuff going on around this, just a lot of the political machinations going on there. And so you really, mainly these 2 locations in this, and I thought it was really interesting overall, but there were times where the stuff of the Sisterhood slowed down a bit and it just wasn't quite as interesting as in the first couple of episodes and then in the last 2 episodes. So I thought that was mainly my where my main negatives lie with this show. For the most part, it stayed pretty consistent with all the technical aspects with this. As I mentioned already with the production design, the acting in this throughout is really, really well done. It's very typical with an HBO show. Mark Strong, seeing him in here as the Emperor, I thought was really interesting. His character that he played, this very meek kind of guy, but also trying to always present this level of strength within him. And then as the show, this season goes on, you just slowly see his descent into the realization of who he really is, and that his whole life has been basically pre-planned throughout. And I thought he just really played this interesting character that I haven't really seen from Mark Strong yet, especially after seeing him play in another HBO show, The Penguin, that came out, playing the head of that Falcone family and really just being this very menacing, just controlling leader of that family. And to be put in here where he's basically just a placeholder, basically being a puppet for this whole entire world, and the Sisterhood's trying to control basically everything, and he really has no true power. I thought it was just really interesting to see him play this, because he would have these certain looks on his face and just the performance he had where you could see the weakness in him and the constant struggle of trying to, again, present this level of power and show within himself that he could be like his dad, who was the king before. He just got handed basically this throne. It's really just interesting to see the smaller moments he has where he just really takes up the screen with just some of the facial expressions he has and some of the realizations he'll have on his face when he starts to discover certain secrets that have been held, or why certain things have happened over the years. He just did a really good performance by Mark Strong, and he's always great to see. Since I saw him as a kid in Kick-Ass, that was really my first exposure to him. I've always enjoyed pretty much anything that I see him pop up in. And I will say, before I get any further, I am going to go into some slight little spoilers here in this for this show, because it's the full season and there may be just some stuff I just want to get into. So if you haven't seen the show at all and you don't want to spoil on anything, you can go ahead and cut to the end of this. I have should have timestamps in here that show where my rating will be for this show, this season overall. So if you want to just go to that and you don't want to be spoiled, then go watch it at some point and then come back and maybe watch the rest of this review. Go ahead and do that, but I will be getting into some light ones. I'm not going to go too heavily deep into this show, but I will be touching on a lot of different things, especially with certain characters and where their characters end up by the end of this season. But just want to go ahead and point that out. As far as the other characters here, I mean, I really enjoy how a lot of this show delves pretty deep into this relationship between your really the main characters in a lot of ways in this show, Valia Harkonnen and Tula Harkonnen. And the way they cast these characters, they're playing with time in this show a lot, and so you go into the past and watch how Valia and Tula rose through the ranks in the Sisterhood, and then how they end up getting to where they're at in the present time. And I thought they did a really good job just with the storytelling there, but also with the casting. With all four of these ladies, you have Emily Watson playing the older Valia Harkonnen, really, that we're seeing in the present here. And then as the younger Valia Harkonnen, you have Jessica Barden, I believe that's how you say her name, and they both feel like they are the same character. Like, they did a really good job with casting here. You really felt the emotion and you understood certain reasons why Valia is the way she is now, her mindset, and it's very nuanced in a lot of ways, but they just did a really good job of casting that. And then also the older version of Tula Harkonnen, who was played by Olivia Williams, she did a really good job as well. And then also the younger version of her being played by Emma Canning, I believe. Another really good casting there where they just got it so on point. You really feel like this is the younger version of this character and you're seeing the older one. Like, there is no real difference there. You really felt the connection with the characters there. And I just really enjoyed the story you're being told here, where this underdog kind of feeling with Valia Harkonnen from the very beginning. And she has a lot of front she puts out in public, like, oh, I'm trying to renew our family name or bring it back to great heights. Where really the whole time she is just looking out for herself and herself only. And that continues on into the Sisterhood. And just to see this kind of conspiracy basically taking place where Valia is trying to basically just take control and be almost like the queen of the Sisterhood and just rule it how she wants to rule it, and not have those foundations of what the Sisterhood is supposed to be. And you really get into that more when you see the act that she did early on in years before, and how she ends up becoming the Mother Superior. I thought that was just really well written, and I was just so interested for the most part in everything that was going on Wallach 9 here. As I mentioned, episode 3 and 4, it does get a little bit stagnant, or just at times like we're not really moving the plot forward as much as we were in the beginning. So I think there's little moments there, but other than that, it is a damn interesting story. And to see where it ends up by the end of this season, it's really interesting because having seen the 2 Dune movies now, it's like, okay, what are we going to set up for those movies? Is it going to be anything direct, or is it just going to be more of like, oh, this is how we end up getting steps down the line to this, which I assume will be kind of more of that because it is 10,000 years before, which I think is a really well done job by this show to craft a story that is very independent on its own, where you can just watch this show without really watching the Dune movies, and I think it would still be enjoyable enough. I don't know for sure because I have seen the other movies, so I don't really have that perspective, but I thought it really could act as an independent show on its own while also referencing and showing you different stuff that will probably come into play years later when, of course, they're still doing similar type of tactics here, but it seems like the Bene Gesserit is definitely moving a little bit differently than they are now here at the beginning stages of the Sisterhood. I just thought the lore of that, this whole idea of this religious ideology, I think is really what interests me a lot about the Dune movies and this show as well. So I thought that was really well done. Some other negatives or just kind of mixed things I had at the beginning. There was a few characters like Princess Inez and the sword master here, who is a secret Atreides. I thought their characters weren't that interesting at first until you start to have more developments within the plot, and then their characters become way more interesting. You start to realize that things aren't the way they seem to be. There's issues within the family, and I thought they did that really well. Also, the Emperor's wife, the Empress, Jodie May, who was also in The Witcher, I thought she was really good in there. She's playing a queen, I think, and that was basically a similar type of character, but I thought she was really good in this. I will say at times, I don't know if it was her performance or the way they were directing her, but there was something where like she was just off-putting at times. I think she's supposed to be because her character is very much, she's working for herself as well. In the very first episode when the show starts, they are very much at odds, the Empress and the Emperor, and they really established that very quickly. And so it makes sense, but there was just some times where it was like, it was a little bit mixed for me, I think, overall, her performance, because I was like, I can't tell if it's her performance or the directing or if it's really just supposed to give you these feelings that she is just kind of a little bit icky. Just the way she, all the stuff her character does in this, and it just, I think it's supposed to be that way, so maybe that's why it's a little more mixed. I don't know how to quite feel about that overall. But as I said, there was a few characters overall at the beginning that was just a little bit more mixed on that I think got way more interesting as the season went on. And as stuff begins to develop, this show does continue to get more and more compelling, and you're like, what is going to happen here? And then the lead up with this other character they bring in here. Travis Fimmel plays Desmond Hart. He is from, most notably from the show Vikings. I've never really seen much of anything he's been in. He was in that movie Kandahar that I did see a few years ago, but I don't remember what character he played in that. But this character, Desmond Hart, is definitely one of the most just entertaining to watch. Every time he's on the screen, you're like, what is he going to do? What's going to happen? And he's a really nice character to bring into the show, this wild card, really from the beginning. And then as they develop and reveal more stuff about his character, I thought he only became more and more just interesting. What side is he really going to be on at the end of this? Who is controlling him? And they really get into that more and more. They really open up more stuff for season 2, more paths that can go down, which I thought was really well done also. And I think just overall with this first season, they do a good job of telling its own story without leaving too much of a cliffhanger where it'd be like, okay, come on, you could have answered more stuff. I thought they answered enough going on within the story, within the lore, certain questions that we had, enough to where I want to see season 2. I'm not completely like, oh my God, like sometimes shows will do that where it'll be such a big cliffhanger where you're like, come on. They really tied enough stuff up here while also leaving some doors open, some plot threads that they can continue to go down in season 2. And I wasn't really expecting that. I didn't know if this was going to be a limited series or if this was just going to stay a season 1. And I thought they did a really good job with the writing of just setting everything up really well, again, while also tying some stuff up. And you also get some nice little action moments here, even though this is a very dialogue-heavy show, and it really fits that. I think a lot of the main tense moments are really just dialogue-driven, stuff being revealed, certain political machinations going down, certain relationships, all of a sudden people turning, and they're on another side now, and just it was really cool to see how the Sisterhood was so ingrained in everything here, even from the very beginning, how they're already setting this up. 10,000 years before, they're getting everything all lined up with these bloodlines and stuff. It shows the beginnings of just how everything got into motion. I think that was just really cool to watch. Everyone was just so well done in the acting in this show. Everything felt so real. As I mentioned with the production design, like costume design, the filmmaking, there were some beautiful shots in pretty much every episode in this show. You really felt like you were on different planets. Now, going into the last episode here, I thought it was definitely one of the better, if not the best episodes of the show so far. I will say there was a couple characters, mainly the son of the Emperor, played by Josh Houston, who his name is Constantine. He's not in this last episode at all, and that kind of baffled me. If you've seen the show, maybe you have some insight on it or something, but I was just a little bit confused of like, he's in every episode of 1 through 5, and he just all of a sudden is not in this episode at all. There's no reference to him. I know they had said he was going to go off and be part of the commanding fleet or whatever, but did he already go and he's doing that now? Like, they didn't even mention him at all. There's a bunch of stuff going on in this episode. A lot of stuff is like peaking, coming to a head, climaxing, and he just nowhere seemed to be around, and his character was becoming more and more interesting. Like the last episode, episode 5, I was more interested in him than I had been the entire show so far. Same with the princess, but it was just a little weird how they didn't follow up with that. So I'm wondering what they're going to do in season 2 as far as that goes, because it was like he was a fairly prominent character. He wasn't like the main character like the Emperor or the two main sisters here, Valley and Tula. But the way they deal with family bloodlines in this, and then Tula with her kids she ends up having, the reveals of all that, and not to spoil, I want to go full spoiler with it, but revealing who her son actually is and how that changes everything going on within the main plot, I thought was really well written, and it wasn't as predictable as it maybe could be, at least for me. This show didn't really have many valleys, mostly peaks, dipped a little bit at times, but overall I thought this was a really nice first season. It got me interested in this whole past stuff going on, which is pretty crazy. I think it's really hard to do a good prequel, but with this, much like Star Wars, if they do it right, unlike a show like The Acolyte, if you actually have really good writing and create a good story that where you're interested in what's going on in the past, then you're not going to be focused on the fact that it's a prequel so much. I thought this show did a good job with that, where it's so far in the past, there's not characters from the Dune movies that we're following where we're like, we know what their fate's going to be. It's completely different characters, and it still affects everything going on in the future. I thought that was just a really good idea for this show, and they really executed it very well overall. Again, some moments where things were a little bit less interesting, where I felt like they maybe were drawing some stuff out with the Sisterhood, but other than that, pretty much everything going on with the Emperor was always interesting, especially the main thing once you introduce Travis Fimmel's character of Desmond Hart. He is such the heart of a lot of what's going on, or the beating heart of this show when you're everywhere with the Emperor on this planet, whatever the planet's called. I honestly forget. I don't know all the terms and stuff. So if you do, sorry, I'm not going to necessarily get all the names here with this Dune world, but I thought everything there was just so interesting. The stuff with the princess, this rebellion that's going on, Sisterhood just constantly just meddling and trying to control every single thing, and just so fascinating to watch how that goes down. One other actor I wanted to mention is Chloe Leah here as Sister Lila. I thought she did a really good job. In the first few episodes here, she's playing this kind of meek character, a part of the Sisterhood here, very unsure of herself, just very timid and scared at times. And then the way she plays this other character as these ancestors are inhabiting her body, I thought she did such a good job of switching up the character completely, and you really feel like there's ancestors controlling her, and just the presence she had, even just a different look. I don't know if they did something in the makeup department or just messed with her look a little bit in the after effects, but she even looked different. She had this completely different presence about her, and I thought she just did a really good job, just really well done acting where you just believed it so much. It reminded me a little bit of Timothée Chalamet in Dune 2, his transformation when he fully drinks in the worm juice and becomes the Muad'Dib, the Lisan al-Gaib, the leader of all these Fremen. I thought there was a little bit of shades of that with her, and I thought she just did a really good job of selling this difference in that she is not Lila anymore. And so I want to definitely give a shout out to her because she did a really good job in this. One of the better performances of this show. My favorite performances probably were overall in this season Mark Strong, Chloe Leah, and the two main women that played the sisters. I thought the woman that played Valeria Harkonnen, Emily Watson, and Olivia Williams that played Tula, the older versions of them, I thought they did a really great job, along with younger versions as well. They're not too far behind them, but I do think overall the older versions themselves got a little bit more screen time overall to really chew up the scenery. And then also Travis Fimmel, I thought he was just magnetic every time he was on the screen. Like the way he would even carry himself, this kind of gritty, just weird vibe about him where you never quite knew what he was going to do. And then this power he had with him to basically burn you from the inside, I thought was really cool, really well done. And the way they visualized it, it felt just very painful. The sound design, just really good jobs with the effects and everything within that as well. But yeah, every time Travis Fimmel was on the screen as this character Desmond Hart, you're just like, what the fuck is about to go down? This dude is crazy. So that is really my main thoughts on this season 1. This is really what I'm going to try and do from now on with TV shows, is probably just review the season after they're done, because it's really hard for me to review episode by episode, especially when you got certain things like What If that I'm watching right now, where that's every episode's completely different type of thing going on. So I'm going to probably do this with TV shows from now on. I'm going to review the season after it's done and then just get that out there. It's a little bit easier, especially with reviewing so many movies that I do. I'm trying to get done on this channel. It's just a little bit easier to do that. But yeah, it's really kind of my main overall thoughts. Not going too far in depth like episode by episode here because there's just so much that happens. One of the things I really enjoy is that each episode was about an hour long. So even though you had 6 episodes here, you're pretty much covering 6 hours of story for the most part. So I thought that's another reason why HBO, they really got that formula down right. Like, it doesn't really matter what their episode count is. They're going to put in the time to put a great story in here and just slowly develop certain things where then you'll have time. Like, as I mentioned in earlier episodes, I'm not as interested in this Swordmaster character or in Princess Inez. But as it goes on, certain things get revealed about the family where you're like, oh man, I'm like way more into them now. But if you had revealed that earlier on, it may have been too soon. And so overall, for the development of the show and how great it will be overall, it's just really nice to wait to reveal some of those things. And you have the time to do that when, and not to pick on Disney Plus or anything, when most of your shows for them are like 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes under 30 minutes, and you just feel like they're rushing through certain things. I think HBO, just they have that down with their shows pretty much. Whether it's a great show every time or not, it's not always going to be great, but they put the time in and give themselves enough time to tell a good story. And that's really where the main thing is here. Because if the story's not well written here, even if the production design is really well done, it's just you're not going to be as invested here. So I thought they did a really good job with that. And I'm going to give the first season of Dune Prophecy an 8.5 out of 10. That was a pretty damn good first start to this series. We'll see how far it goes. I'm not sure how long they're planning to extend this. They clearly set up a season 2. Wasn't for sure how they were going to do it here, if they were just going to be a limited series here and we just kind of end it here, because I was half expecting Valia and Tula to both be gone by the end of the season, but they set everything up to where I'm very interested to see where it goes, and hopefully it'll be just as good. I thought it was really well done with all the directors that are involved in each episode here, especially in particular Anna Forster. She did the first episode and then the last 2 episodes of this season. So I thought really well done. I think nice job there with her starting the show out, getting everything set up, and then bringing it home, and then having the other directors. You had 2 other directors involved in the middle of this season, and I thought they did a good job too of continuing to set up things to have the payoff. Because I thought definitely, for me, the first episode and the last 2 are probably my favorite of this season so far. So she did a really good job directing. The music in here is really good. Just everything on a technical aspect, I really didn't have any complaints much at all. It was just really smaller things throughout the show where any of my mixed or negatives lied. But what do you think? Have you seen the show at all? Have you seen the other Denis Villeneuve Dune movies? Do you care to see this show? Just whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment down below. And also, if you want to support this channel any further, you can hit that subscribe button and also hit the like button as well. Again, just a smaller channel here, just doing this because it's my hobby and passion, and I really love talking about TV shows and movies and anything like that. So I do appreciate all the support, as I said. And you can also follow me on any of my social media platforms. It's on the screen right now as well. But that'll be it for now. I will be coming out here pretty soon with Complete Unknown is coming out this week. As I'm recording, this is actually Christmas Eve, so it's actually coming out today. You also get Nosferatu coming out this week. I am really legitimately excited about that movie. Robert Eggers, I really enjoy his filmmaking style, and everything I've heard about this movie, I'm just pretty excited to go see this. Nicholas Hoult is really just continuing to rise as a star right now, and so yeah, just can't wait for that. I'm gonna have my most anticipated movies of 2025 coming out, and also my favorite movies of 2024. Other than that, I do appreciate anybody who's watching this, and that'll be it for now. I will talk to you guys later.